Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This is part 2 of the calendar review and looking at the darkness upon the cross. I do apologize because I didn't foresee that. I was hoping to do all of this in one video recording session. However, all things happen according to our Father will. So now we're going to the part to the darkness upon the cross. And this is also be inclusive of looking at the 3 days and 3 nights that Yahusha HaMashiach was in the heart of the earth, known as Sheol. Okay? All right. Now, if you have not seen part 1, I highly recommend that you look at that because we did a calendar review looking at the month of Aviv, Zif, Zif, and Sivan. Okay? Looking at Aviv, Zif, and Sivan. All right. So let's get right down to it. I don't know if it was mentioned part 1 or not, but let me go ahead and bring this up again. The calendar. In part 1, we had talked about what season we are in, and I think we forgot to mention about what is expected in that season, and it has to deal with Mazaroth. And for those who read Enoch's writings, the first, second, and third book, it tells you the functions or the role of Mazaroth. And now Mazaroth is a Hebrew word for the 12 signs, which the Gentiles today call the zodiac. All right. So when the Father in heaven created these lights, each of them have a certain function, not only in his calendar, but also in agriculture as well as the seasons. Okay, so we did not mention that in the season of summer, what are we expecting to happen now is that we are going to be in a season of drought. Drought. Okay, so I'm just opening to the calendar to the 3rd month because as it was revealed in the 3rd new moon report that is listed on the channel, that summer started on day 11. Day 11. Okay, so the first day of summer started on day 11 and the 3rd moon or the 3rd month, known as Sivan. Okay, so on day 10, we had the sun enter into the 4th sign of Mazaroth, known as today the Gentile call it Cancer. So when we have that sign to happen unto us, it is signifying unto us that it's the last day of spring and that it's the last day of the sun's 3rd month. Okay, so now we are in summertime. So I'm going to close that out. And to bring up Enoch's writings, let me go to that. Before I do that, let me show you this. So we have this out the way. Again, if I share any copyright material, it is for educational purposes only. It is to edify you. To edify you. Okay? So now that we have that out the way, let me take you to Enoch's writings. That's not it. So let me go to here. Let me do this. There we go. And I'm going to find the page for you. Let me go to my notes first. And I believe it's in 2nd Enoch. And this is dealing with the part when the angel took him to the heavens. And for those who have been studying, we know there are 10 levels of heaven, for 10 represent completion, which bring me to this. I did forget to mention when we look at the fast of Savan, when it fell on the 10th day, the number 10 represent what? Completion. And that's the same day when the vessels of Yah return to his house. Again, on the channel, there's a mystery behind that physical act or that physical example that was done of the vessel return to your house. So please watch that as well, so you can understand that mystery as so you can understand that mystery that the Father is giving unto us. Okay, I'm about almost there. Let's see. Let me make sure this is the chapter. Yep, we're gonna be in chapter 21 of Second Enoch. 21 of Second Enoch, and it may be on. I'll have to put the page number in. Here we go. So we're in Second Enoch, chapter 21, and we're gonna look at verse. Let me see where I want to start at. Let me start a little higher and then read down, but our focus is on verse 7. Verse 7. Okay. So let me start at verse 1 of chapter 21. And it says, and the cherubim and the seraphim standing around the throne, and the six-winged and many-eyed ones do not depart, standing before Yahuwah's face doing his will, and cover his whole throne, singing with gentle voice before Yahuwah's face, Holy, holy, holy. Yahuwah, ruler of Sabaoth, Sabaoth, meaning hosts, army. He is the Lord, ruler of the hosts, the army. Heavens and earth are full of your glory. You got to understand what that glory is too. When I saw all these things, the men said to me, Enoch, thus far we were commanded to journey with you, and those men went away from me, and after that I did not see them. And I remained alone at the end of the seventh heaven, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, Woe is me! What has befallen me? So he's at the end of the seventh heaven. Verse 4. And Yahuwah sent one of his glorious ones, the archangel Gabriel, and he said to me, Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. Arise before Yahuwah's face into eternity. Arise and come with me. And I answered him and said within myself, My Lord, my Adonai, my Adonai, my soul has departed from me due to terror and trembling. And I called to the men who led me up to this place. I relied on them, and it is with them that I can go before Yahuwah's face. And Gabriel lifted me up like a leaf caught up by the wind, and he placed me before Yahuwah's face. And I saw the eighth heaven. You want to underline that. It's the eighth heaven now, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Muzalaf. Muzalaf. In the Gentile, when they translate in their language, they would say zodiac. So the eighth heaven, according to the Hebrew tongue, is called Muzalaf. And Muzalaf is the changer of seasons. This is where we have the changing of seasons taking place, of drought and the wet and of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament. What are those 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament or the circle of heaven? Remember, firmament means heaven. Okay. Those 12 constellations is known as Mazaroth. Mazaroth. Okay. So of Mazaroth, of the circle of the heaven, which are above the seventh heaven. So it's talking about the eighth heaven now. So the eight heavens above the seventh heaven. And this is where we have in this place where the season, the changer or the one who's responsible for changing the seasons and letting and also the ones who in charge of bringing forth a drought or bringing forth wetness, which we know wetness has to do with rain, snow, dew, frost, all those things that is made up of water. Okay. Verse 8. And I saw the ninth heaven. So now we're going into the ninth heaven now, which is called in the Hebrew Kachavim, Kachavim, which are the heavenly homes of the 12 constellation of the circle of the firmament. So in the night heaven, this is the home of Mazaroth. This is where Mazaroth actually dwells. Remember, these lights go through what we call the left, the doors. This is what we learned in the prior class sessions, okay? Because these lights do move and interchange and go from one realm to another through the doors according to the Father will and his authority, okay? But what we see in the eighth heaven, what's taking place, this is where the command or the instructions as far as how the seasons come and go. Also how long drought and wetness would be. Okay, so it takes place in the eighth heaven. But the ninth heaven is the home of Mazaroth, the home of Mazaroth. Remember, circle of firmament. Firmament means heaven. Go back to Genesis 1 to that foundation to understand these terms. Reason why you see circle, because everything moves in a circuit. It moves in either a oblongated, a elongated circle or a circle. In other words, it goes in a circular movement. Makes sense. Okay, and remember that the heavens surrounds the earth, and there are 10 levels. Okay, so this is what I did forget to mention, that now that we're in summertime, what we're expecting to come now is that we're expecting a season of drought to come, which is very important when you're dealing with the wheat harvest. The wheat now has to be dried out to be ready for harvest. Okay, very important. Kind of remind you what's going to take place with us. All right. These are what these trials and tribulations are doing, is getting us ready for harvest. Either you're going to make the cut or either you're not. That's what these trials and tribulations do. Which is comparison to fire. Okay. So these trials and tribulations, what's going to purify our hearts. It's going to remove all the impurities or remove the things or the sins or the transgressions that keep us from our Father Yah. All right. Now that we have that out the way, and again, for those who have a copy of this book, it's on page 244. And let me go back to the beginning of this book. This comes from Enoch's writings it was translated by Joseph B. Lumpkin. Joseph B. Lumpkin. I like his work. Okay, and here's a picture of what Enoch may look like. All right, as you can see, he is a melanated man. It's a mystery about melon, and on the channel it reveals that, but I will give you a little hint. It has to do with light. It has to do with becoming white. In the Hebrew tongue, we say sach. Another word, Laban. In the Greek tongue, they would say lukos. It's like I said, it's mysteries. All right. Now the 3 days and 3 nights. Last time we met, we talked about the 3 days and 3 nights. And I was saying that it's very important that we begin to look at the events that took place on Aviv 14th to Aviv 16th. Aviv 14th to Aviv 16th. Now, I know what some of you are already thinking. How can we get 4 out of 3? Well, there was a mystery or something miraculous that happened on a V14. And one of the miraculous signs was that there was darkness that came upon the earth. And when you read the Gentile records, they said it was so dark upon the earth that even the stars came out. That's how dark it was. Another thing that I shared when we had this session on this topic is that I had to point out to you about time, because we've been conditioned or taught the heathen's ways. We don't see things from a Hebrew way or from an Israelite way, okay? So this is another thing we need to look at, that the darkness that came upon the earth in the 6th hour, and then it end within the night hour. So when you look at the total number of hours, it's actually 4 hours, y'all. 4 hours. Now I understand when people get 3, because you're taking the difference between these numbers, such as you're subtracting 9 from 6 to get a 3-hour difference. But when you map this out on a chart, okay, starting from the 6th hour, when you count these numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, you get a total of 4 hours. So the darkness was upon the earth within, do y'all hear me? I didn't say exactly it was 4 hours, but it was within a 4-hour period. Okay. Far as the time when he went on the cross, he went on the cross in the 3rd hour, and when we convert that to the Gentile time, we get 9 a.m. Okay, 9 a.m. All right, and the 14th day is known as the day of preparation. You have to go back to Aviv 16 to understand what the day of preparation. Now, the Father want me to share this with you, that when the Pharisees kept the day of Passover, they did not follow Torah. They didn't follow his instruction. They kept the Passover during the daytime, and Josephus would confirm that the Pharisees followed the customs and the traditions of their forefathers. They don't follow Torah. Mm-mm. However, the Messiah set the example for you. He kept the Passover at sundown, starting at sundown, okay, which will line up to what my ancestors kept in the book of Exodus in the days of Egypt. Okay. So a V14 is known as the day of preparation. I should put a block in here. Let me put a block in here so that way you can see that's the day of preparation. I'm going to insert a row. So this is the day of preparation. Then a V15 is your Sabbath day. And then a V16 is your first day of the week. Make this one smaller. Okay. So you want to, when you get some time, you want to go back and look at all these events, because here's the thing about reading the transliteration that's reading into English, and we are going to look at the Aramaic scriptures today to cross reference. Sometimes in the way how things are worded, it's worded in a conversation. So some of the events may seem unto you not in the proper place because it's written in the way of a conversation. So you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together by precept upon precept and line upon line. Okay. So some of the events that took place in the 6th hour to the ninth hour when the darkness was upon the earth is that we had the eclipse of the sun. That means the sun's turned dark or black. There was no more light from the sun. Then he cried out the first time about in the ninth hour when he was upon the cross. Then the temple veil rented or was torn apart. Okay. And the book of Ephesians will elaborate on that and show you what that means. Okay. It was a sign. And then we have the earthquakes and the rocks to also rent. So they was torn apart, the rocks, and then as well as the earth. And then he died in the ninth hour after the second cry. So after his second cry, that's when he gave up what? The breath. Okay, he gave up the breath. I know in the heathen's tongue they said ghost, but we're actually talking about spirit, which is the breath that came from our Father from heaven above. Okay, after the second cry, and then after the drinking, and then after the vinegar, they offer him to drink. So he died in the ninth hour. This is very important to know because there is a sign in the heaven to confirm all of this and what I'm telling you. Okay. And I don't know if I have time to reveal it in this video, but maybe in the next video to come, according to our Father will. All right. Another interesting thing that since we are looking at numbers is that I noticed that from the time he went onto the cross to the time he gave up the breath, we have a total of 7 hours. So from 9 to 3, I get 7. So like 9 is 1, 10 is 2, 11, 3, 12 is 4, 1 is 5, 2 is on 6, and 3 is 7. So within a 7-hour period, he was on the cross. And 7 represent perfection, sanctification. What else I'm thinking about? Sabbath, rest. So perfection, sanctification, rest, etc. All these numbers are telling us something here. Okay. Now, the reason why we want to look at the number, when we look at the 6th hour, the 6th hour represent what? Noon. Now, this should remind you what has taken place in the book of Exodus, even though it was in a different phase of the day. It's something about that number 6. Okay, the number 6 or the 6th hour. We know the number 6 represent the day when our Father or when the Elohim had created Adam. Okay, it is also the same day when Adam fell. That's a mystery on that. Yeah. So it's not a 24-hour period. I want to say that unto you. It's dealing with a 1,000-year period. Okay, because remember, a day unto the Father is 1,000 years. Okay, but the number 6, that what should bring to your remembrance. It is the day when we was created. Oh, it was also the same day when our foreparents fell, and this is how death, sin, and transgression came in. Also, there was a great change that took place unto our foreparents, Adam and Eve. So you want to go back and to that foundation and see what took place. What was the change? The Bible talks about that, but many missed it. Okay. So when we look at Exodus chapter 11, it's going to relate about this 6th hour. So when you look at Exodus chapter 11, verse 4 to 5, Moses is sent unto Pharaoh. Okay. And there will be another plague release. And this verse says, and Moshe said, Thus saith Yahuwah, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. So again, the midnight hour is what, y'all? When we translate that into the Gentiles' time, okay, the midnight hour on their clock is 12. So midnight hour is, in the Hebrew tongue, we say what? The 6th hour. In the Gentile way, they say what? The 12th. The 12th hour. Oh, I mean number 12. It's the number 12. So it's halfway through, right? Halfway through. Because when we look at the word midnight, it's let us know it's halfway through the night. So it's about 6 hours. 6 hours. Okay, this is very important to compare because even though this happened in different phase of the day, which in the phase of the day I'm talking about, this happened at night while the Messiah was on the cross, that happened during the daylight phase. However, these two relate to one another. It's going to signify what is going to take place upon this generation that we're in now. Because we know the plague of darkness is coming. It's coming. Because our Father's the same. If he did it in ancient Egypt, if he did it in the day of the Messiah when he was upon the cross, he's going to do it again as a sign unto us, because there's many prophecies that say that how the sun and the moon will not get their light, how the heavens will be darkened, etc. Again, you have to go back and look at those precepts. And this will all take place before his coming, before the coming of Yahusha HaMashiach. So when we also look at Exodus chapter 12, verse 12 to 14 to 29, again, it's going to talk about this plague that he's bringing upon the Egyptian, which is the plague of the destroyer. And in the Hebrew letter that represent destroyer is Shin, and that letter can also be found in Yahusha HaMashiach name. Okay, how this destroyer is going to kill both man and beast, their firstborn. So let me read these verses unto you right quick, and then you can see why it's so important to go back and look at that, because that was a judgment he put upon the Egyptian. Exodus chapter 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt. Do y'all see that? Huh. The dragon and his and those angels and those spirits who are joined themselves unto him, they were there. And Exodus chapter 12 reveals it, because when the Israelites came out, they too came out, because he broke the head of the Leviathan. He broke the head of the dragon, meaning that he put the end of the Egyptian government. So what he did to Egyptian, he's going to do now to this kingdom we are in, which is the fourth beast kingdom, which is Rome. Okay. So he said, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Adonai. Okay. Verse 13. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the house where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. So what he did back then, he's going to do now, but there's a spiritual marking of the blood. Remember, the Messiah gave us the sign. Did not blood and water come out of his body when they pierced him in his side? It's telling you something deep. Not only you shall be baptized, which is cleansing, but he shall baptize you in fire, which is the blood, the spirit. So there's a spiritual marking upon you. You are sealed in the blood of the Lamb. Read the book of Ephesians and you will see it. You are sealed in the blood of the Lamb. So these judgments that are to come upon this world now, this kingdom, they who are not sealed in the blood of the Lamb will not be spared. Verse 14, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep in a feast to Yahuwah. See, the Passover is a feast, and I thank my brother Carl. I thank you for bringing that out because it's going to give you understanding when you read about these feast days, especially when you get to the book of Leviticus, the book of the Levites. Okay, so you begin to understand that the Passover day is a feast. Okay, so and this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep in a feast to Adonai throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. And the children of Yashael went away and did as Adonai had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. So we get to verse 29. And it came to pass at that midnight, the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. Do y'all see? It happened in the midnight hour. The midnight hour, which is what? The 6th hour. The same time he brought the darkness upon the earth when the Messiah was crucified. Okay? From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. I'm sorry. Let me start over. Forgive my tongue. Unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. Okay, so now we're going to get into more finer details because one thing what the Father has been teaching me, when you have a question about anything, you are to go to his prophets. They are his mouthpiece. They don't speak their opinion. They don't speak their thought. They speak what Yah tells them to speak, which come from our Father's mind. Okay, so we have a prophet that would confirm that the darkness came either at noon or in the noon hour. It was already prophesied that took place when the Messiah was upon the cross. And you can find it in the prophet Amos book, chapter 8, verse 9 to 10. Okay, so let us read that verse. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Adonai Elohim, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon. Do y'all hear that? So now we understand why he chose that noon hour. It does relate to when the day when he created Adam and when he fell. Okay? All these things are tied in together. And I will darken the earth in the clear day. So that makes sense because when you look in the heavens, and when you know your sense of direction, such as where it's east, south, west, and north, when you look in the south direction, this is where you see the sun at in the noon hour, in the 6th hour, because it's high above, right, shining nice and bright. Okay, and it's in the clearest part of the day. And it's the reason why the Father chose the clearest day, because when he bring the darkness upon the earth, no one can say, oh, it was too close to the time where it was still night before the morning, or oh, it was too close to the time when the sun would go down, so that's why it became dark. No, he did this sign in the noon hour, in the 6th hour, to show you this is a sign. This is something miraculous here. Okay? Let us go on to read verse 10. And I will turn your feasts into mourning and all your songs into lamentation. And I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins and baldness upon every head. And I will make it as the morning of an only son, and the end thereof as a bitter day. Okay? Another prophet he's reminding me for you to read is Zechariah. Zechariah also talks about the time when the Messiah is upon the cross, how these two households will mourn for him. That is the household of Nathan Okay, because Nathan is the son of David. Okay, and the household of Shimei. Shimei is the household of Levite. All right, because when you study on Mary's lineage, known as Miriam, you will learn that her mother is of the house of Levi and her father is of the house of Judah from the lineage of David, King David. Let me go to Zechariah and try to find that chapter for you now so you can go back and read that. Yep, it's in Zechariah chapter 12. Zechariah chapter 12. And it's the house of, let me type this here. So it is the house of David and the house of Levi. And in the house of David, let me first type this in. House of David. In the house of David, he's talking about Nathan. Okay. And in the house of, let's see here. Let me stay jump. Okay. And then in the house of Levi, he's talking about the house of, I think it's Shimei. Shimei. We'll spell it out for you. So you will have it. It's Shimei. Okay. That's another good thing to look at. Far as the scripture that's dealing with the time he went upon the cross, you can find it in Mark chapter 15, verse 25. Okay. So there's a correlation that we see here from the day of Egypt when they had the destroyer to come in. Because remember, the letter Shin is also in the Messiah's name, and also when the Messiah was upon the cross. Okay, so we see a relationship about that. It's something about the 6th hour in the mid part of the day and the mid part of the night. Okay, now another prophet to look at is the prophet Hosea. The prophet Hosea will confirm unto you the day that the Messiah resurrected. Okay, and this is also dealing with how he set the captives free from Sheol. These are the saints talking. For it says in verse 1, come and let us return unto Adonai. For he that hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days will he revive us. So after 2 days, that meaning, like it's saying here, in the third day. So after 2 days pass, in the third day, see, this is clearing it up. A lot of people is getting 4 days. I have even someone seen someone's got 5 days, but no, the prophet will clear it up to you. It's in the third day. Okay. So after 2 days, will he revive us? And see, and sorry, after 2 days, he will revive us. And the third day, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. And this verse here is dealing with the saints he set free, because even the Bible and other sacred books says the book of Nicodemus would confirm that the saints too rose out of their graves when he resurrected. Okay. Verse 3. Then shall we know if we follow on to know Adonai. His going forth is prepared as the morning, as he shall come unto us, as the rain, as the latter rain and former rain unto the earth. Do y'all see that? As the latter rain and former rain unto the earth, as the last and the first. It's beautiful. Okay. Now we get into the part where you're gonna have to start precepting and comparing the scriptures. Okay, the scriptures. So what I'm gonna think of about doing, because I don't want to make this video too long for you. I'm trying to see where to start at. We're gonna go to the Aramaic scriptures and look at the time, the time of when this darkness was upon the cross. Because what I'm showing unto you, when this darkness came upon the cross, this is when you have a day to happen within a day. Remember, I told y'all this is not based on a 24-hour period. This is dealing with the phases of the day. So on a V14, you have darkness to come in the mid part of this day. Okay? On the mid part of this day. So the scriptures can be fulfilled. Because remember, he has to go, or he has to be in Sheol in the time, or I'm trying to get this wording right, y'all. He has to be in Sheol in a part of these phases of the day. So we know there has to be 3 nights and 3 daylights. Okay. So when you do your scriptures, right, precept upon precept, what you would learn is that when it came in this night hour, remember there's 60 minutes in this night hour. We know that Yahusha Mashiach died, or he gave up the breath. Okay. And when he did that, that's when his soul ascended down into Sheol in this phase of the day, which is night. So that's why you see me put night 1. So when the darkness went away, then you have daylight. Okay, daylight. So this is about him being in Sheol according to the phases of the day, which consists of what? Night and daylight. Go back to Genesis. Just like in the beginning of all things, there was darkness, then came light. There was darkness, and then came light. Okay? So meditate on that too, because like I said, he's speaking a lot here. So here, this is when the Messiah soul went into Sheol in the night phase, right here. So that's 1. So, and then when daylight came, he was also in Sheol during the daylight phase. And this would continue until we get to the 3rd day, which is Aviv 16. Okay. So while we are here in this chart, let us go over that right quickly, and then we're going to do this precept with this darkness stuff. Okay. So when we look at Aviv 15, this is the Shabbat, the day of rest. He was in Sheol in the night phase and in the daylight phase. So that makes what? Day 2. Day 2. Then when we get to Aviv 16, because this is the same day where we have the manna to cease. This is also the same day we will offer the sheaf weight offering. Okay. Remember to watch part 1 because we talked about that briefly. So on this day, he was in Sheol in the night and in the daylight. And this is how we know, especially with that daylight, because a lot of people think it had to be 24 hours. No. Mary did not get to his tomb until when the sun was rising. See, the Messiah arose in the phase of the day when you see light coming upon the earth. Today they call it the dawn phase. So by the time she got to his tomb, he was already resurrected. And she got there at the time when the sun was rising. And to understand that, you're going to have to go out and look at the heavens. Notice the amount of time that you first see light. That is the glory. All right. You first see light in the heaven. Then later on, you see the rising of the sun. Okay. This is why I'm telling you, this is not based on a 24-hour period. This is dealing with the phases of a day, the phases of the day. Okay. Now let's precept the timing of the darkness when he was upon the cross. So let's go to the Aramaic text and compare it to Matthew chapter 27. And we're going to look at around verse 45. It says here in the Aramaic text of Matthew 27, it said, now from the 6th hour, and they have it in brackets, which, and you convert it, it means noon. There was darkness all over the land until the 9th hour, which is 3 p.m. Verse 46, and about the 9th hour, okay, Yahusha cried out in a loud voice and said, my Yah, why have you spared me? Now some from those who were standing there when they heard it were saying, this one calls for Elijah. And at that moment one from them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a cane, a reed, and was offering a drink to him. But the rest were saying, leave him, let's see if Elijah come down to save him. Then he, Yahusha, again cried out with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. So that's the second cry when he gave up the breath. Do you see how the difference with the Aramaic text versus the King James Bible? Because we know that that part came from the Greek transliteration. They say ghost, but here they say spirit. And it's a reason why they say spirit, because it's dealing with the breath. Go back to the beginning. How did Adam become a living soul? The Father what? Breathed in him. So breath, the wind, is spirit. Spirit. Okay. Verse 51. And immediately the curtains, the door faces of the temple, were split into two, far above, two below, and the ground was shaken, and the rocks were split. Okay, so that's another sign that took place when he was crucified, when he gave up the spirit. And the book of Ephesians is going to give you the mystery of the message of why the curtain split into two. It's a message unto the Israelites and unto the Gentiles. Verse 52. And the tomb houses were open, and many bodies of the holy ones who were asleep arose and went out, and after his resurrection they entered into the holy city and appeared unto many. So it's going to give you an understanding about those saints. Why they're called holy ones. That's what saint mean, holy ones. When you understand sanctification, then you understand why they're holy ones. Okay? So let's look at the English version, and you can, we're just going to compare. We're not going to read everything word for word, but what you see is a lot of it saying pretty much the same thing, but it's going to help you get to see the events clearer. Okay? But we do know that the saints came after his resurrection, because remember, he's the first. He has to be the first. So this is why I like comparing transliteration to other transliteration, so you can get a more accurate picture of what was going on. So that's Matthew 27. Let's go to Mark chapter 15. Okay. We're going to go down to 33. Okay, we're going to chapter 15. Okay, here we go. It says in verse 33, and when the 6th hour of the daytime had come, when they say daytime, they're talking about daylight. Know your phases of the day now. The phase of the day consists of night and daylight, another word, daytime, had come. There was darkness all over the land until the 9th hour. Okay. And in the 9th hour, so within that 9th hour, Yahusha cried out in a loud voice and said, Maya, Maya. I can't remember how he was the translation. I think, why has thou forsaken me? Which is, Maya, Maya, why have you spared me? Okay, forgive me, y'all. So it means not forsaken me, but why have you spared me? Okay. Now, when you read a book of Psalms, the book of Psalms will elaborate what that truly means. And for the sake of time, um, those who have access to the 6 and 11, please look those precepts up to understand why the Messiah would say that. Okay. And some from those who were standing there that heard it were saying, he called for Elijah. The one ran and filled a sponge, a vinegar sponge, and fastened it on a cane so that he might drink. But they said, leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down. Then he, Yahusha, cried out in a loud voice and died. That's confirming. It was the second cry when he died. And the door curtains of the temple split in two from the top to the bottom. Now, when the centurion, he who was standing in the front of him, saw that he cried out thus and died, he said, truly, this man was the Son of God, the Son of Yah. Now there were also women who was watching from afar, Mary of Magdala, Mary, the mother of Jacob/James, the younger one, and of Joseph and Salome. Those who followed him when he was in Galilee, Galilee, and ministered unto him, and many others had gone up with him into Jerusalem. And when it was the evening, do y'all hear that? And when it was the evening of the preparation, which is before the Sabbath, Joseph, who was from Ramoth, an honorable counsel, he who was looking for the kingdom of Yah, came and took and approached Pontus and requests the body of Yahusha. Okay? Yep. Now, to understand verse 42, you got to draw a chart. Those who have access to the King James 611 Bible, let me go ahead and take it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. To understand why we say the evening of the preparation day before the Sabbath, the Sabbath. Okay, you got to understand what it's talking about. You can find it in Exodus chapter 12. And a side note, and it's going to be in verse 6. Verse 6. In verse 6, okay, so I have to scroll back up. In verse 6 it says, "And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole congregation assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening." Now it's talking about when you're going to kill the Passover. You're going to kill the Passover in the evening. Now, for those who are access to 1611, it's going to explain what evening mean and what he's talking about. When it said in Hebrew, it means between the two evenings. Okay, so what is between the two evenings? So when we look at, let me scroll down. I think, I don't know if I copy and paste. Here we go. I'll put it right here. Evening, right? So between the two evenings is this. You have a Aviv 14th. Then you have sundown. Then Aviv 15th is coming in. So this is why you see this verse say in Mark 15, with chapter 15, when you look at verse 42, it said, and when it was the and when it was the evening of the preparation. What is the evening of the preparation? Which is before the Sabbath. Okay, so it's before the Sabbath coming in. All right. Joseph, because we know Joseph was one of the Messiah disciples, and we know that he went to Pontus to ask for his body, because when they took him down from the cross, y'all, they put his body in a, like a common tomb area. So Joseph went to ask him for his body so he could put him in a new tomb. Okay, so this was all done in the evening of the 14th day. In the evening of the 14th day. And that means that in the Hebrew tongue, it means between the two evenings. So between the two evenings, what it's saying that you have a V14 and the sun is going down, and then a V15 is coming in. Just like when we kill the Passover, we have a V13, right? And then the sun is going down and the V14 is coming in. This is the time when we kill the Passover. I'm trying to get my cursor over. So this is the time when the Passover is killed. Is killed in between the 2 days. So you got one day leaving out and one day coming in. Well, that's the same thing with the Messiah here. His body is being buried in a new tomb. Sorry about that. Mm. So Messiah's body is being buried in a new tomb between these 2 days, or between the evening. Okay, between the two evenings, before the Sabbath come in. So between a V14 and a V15, which is the evening time right here, because the sun is going down, the Messiah is being buried in a new tomb. Now we see the relationship why our Father in heaven ordered us to kill the Passover between these two evenings. Okay, between a V13 and a V14. Making sense now. Everything's coming together. So for future reference, go to Exodus chapter 12, verse 6. Look in the side note of the King James 6 and 11, and you begin to understand what the evening that he's talking about. He said what? Between the two evenings. So that's what he's talking about. Okay. Now let's go to Luke. Well, before we go to Luke, let me go back to Mark just to compare. So as you can see, they're about saying the same thing. Okay. Again, give you more insight of the events that taken place. All right. So now let's look at Luke chapter 23. Okay. And Luke chapter 23 give us confirmation that the darkness came over all the earth. Over all the earth. Okay. All right. So let's look at Luke 23 in the Aramaic text. And we're going to look at verse 44. Now, I do apologize. I just don't have the right equipment software, guys, where I can just take all these verses and put them in columns and you can really compare. So I'm probably working on this document here to finalize it. But it really helps when you can compare these scriptures so you can see the true picture of what was really going on with this darkness upon the cross. Let's see here. Another thing I want to point out, what I like about the Aramaic text, you can see what was the correct word that they call my people. They use the word Judeans. So in the there was a like a post put above his head with the inscription of saying that this is the king of the Judeans, because the word Jew didn't come until in the 18th century. That didn't come till later, y'all. Way later, even after the Bible was written or put together under the authority of King James. Okay, so they actually was calling our people Judeans because it was under the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. All right, so the people who was a part of that kingdom, they was called Judeans. All right, that's what I like about the Aramaic text. It gives you a little more insight, and you can really see what was the more accurate word back then. Okay, so now we're looking at, let me see, verse 44. It says that now there have been about 6 hours about noon. See, 6 hours. So in the mid part of the day, That's when the darkness came. So there have been about 6 hours, and darkness came over all the land until the ninth hour. So somewhere in the ninth hour, that's when the darkness ended. Remember, they didn't have minutes, seconds during that period of time. They went by hours. Verse 45. And the sun was darkened, and the door curtain of the temple was torn from its middle. And Yahusha cried out in a loud voice and said, My Father, into your hands I place my spirit. He said this and died. So now you see why they say he gave up what? The spirit. He said, I give my spirit into your hands, Abba. Ooh, that's tough. Verse 47. Now when the centurion saw the thing that happened, he gave praise unto Yahuwah and said, Truly this was righteous. Truly this man was righteous. And all the crowds, those who were gathered for this spectacle, when they saw the thing that happened, returned while beating upon their breasts. So they too was grieved that they did this to a righteous man. 49. And there was standing from a distance all the acquaintances of Yahusha and the women, those who have come with him from Galilee, and they have seen these things. Now a certain man whose name was Joseph, a councilman from Arimathea, a city of Jude, a city of Judea, being a good and righteous man. This one didn't agree with their will and with their actions and was looking for the kingdom of God, the kingdom of Yah. This one approached Pontus and asked for the body of Yahusha, and he took him down and wrapped him in a shroud of linen and placed him in a hewn out tomb house, that which no man had yet been placed in. And it was the day of preparation. What is the day of preparation, y'all? At V14. Go back to the book of Exodus, Exodus chapter 16, to understand the day of preparation. But it's the day before the what? The Sabbath. It is the day that we prep for the Sabbath. Okay. And it was the day of preparation. And the Sabbath was dawning. That means the Sabbath was coming in, y'all. Verse 15. Then those women who came with him from Galilee were nearby, and they saw the tomb, how they placed his body. And they returned and prepared balms and aromatic herbs. And on the Sabbath they rested. This is the proof, y'all. This was dealing with the Sabbath day. And on the Sabbath they rested according to the commandment. That was a good one to read to compare to chapter 23. Okay. So is this confirming unto us that the darkness happened in the 6th hour? Today they say what, noon or 12, and the darkness ended in the ninth hour, which is 3 p.m. in the 3 o'clock hour. Okay. As you can see here, also in this transliteration in the English text, he do say, having said thus, he gave. No, I'm sorry, y'all. Look at the wrong part. Even in this verse, he said, in thy hands I commend my spirit. So you can see how close that is. And the precept for that is Psalms chapter 31, verse 6. All right, let's go to the book of John, chapter 19, and look at that transliteration. So John chapter 19, and we're going to look at verse 28, starting in verse 28. It says here, after these things, Yahusha knew that everything was complete, and so that the scripture might be fulfilled, he said, I'm thirsty. Oh, let me go up higher. I think I need to go up higher in this chapter. Okay, so let me go down. Okay, so let me keep reading. So I probably did start the right verse. And let me check over here for comparison. Yep, I did start in the right verse. Forgive me, y'all. That was verse 28 I just read. So verse 29, and they placed a vessel that was full of vinegar and filled a sponge from the vinegar and placed it on hyssop and brought it near towards his mouth. After he had taken the vinegar, Yahusha said, behold, it is finished. Do y'all see that? The yod, the completion. And he bowed his head and delivered up his spirit, the Ruach. Okay. Now, the Judeans, because it was the day of preparation, was saying these bodies shouldn't remain overnight on their crosses because the Sabbath was dawning. That means the Sabbath was coming in, y'all. For it was the great day of the Sabbath. And they asked on Pontius Pilate that they might break the legs, the shin bones of those who were crucified, that they might take them down. And the soldier came and they broke the legs, the shin bones of the first and of that other who was crucified with him. And when they came towards Yahusha, they saw that he was dead already and didn't break his legs. But one from the soldiers struck him in the side with a spear lance, and immediately blood and water came out. You want to highlight that in your Bible because y'all, it's a deep spiritual thing that the Messiah was showing us about this blood and water that came out of him. It's a spiritual connection to that. Okay. And the one who has seen it has testified, and his witness is true, and he knows the truth. He spoke so that you also may believe. For these things have happened so that the scripture might be fulfilled, which said that not a bone will be broken in him. And again, another scripture which said that they will look at him whom they have pierced. After these things, Joseph, the one who was from Arimathea, sought from Pontius or Pilate that he might take the body of Yahusha, because he was a disciple of Yahusha, and had concealed himself for fear of the Judeans. And Pilate permitted it, and he came and took the body of Yahusha. And Nicodemus also came, that one who had come previously to Yahusha at night, and he brought with him spices of myrrh and aloe, about 100 liters. And they took away the body of Yahusha, and they wrapped it in linen sheets and with ointments, as is customary for the Judeans when they bury. Now there was in the place that Yahusha was crucified in a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, which a man haven't yet been placed in. And they placed Yahusha there because the Sabbath was entering and because the tomb was near. I hope y'all enjoyed this precept upon precept. I hope y'all understand how you can get 4 out of 3 because the Father did a great sign. He did a great sign, y'all, on a V14. You had a day to happen within a day. He caused night to come upon the cross so it can fulfill the scripture of him being in Sheol for 3 nights and 3 days. That's how it was done. And there's one more evidence that the Father want me bring unto you that would give us the date the year when he was crucified. And you're going to see why this information is so important, because it deals with the creation timeline. So you can understand where we're at. Because I'm telling y'all, we're in the 8th day of Adam, y'all, and we don't have long. We are in the 8th week of Enoch's 10-week prophecy. We do not have long when he shall disperse the eagle wings to gather the bride, the 144, and the nation of Israel. Time was winding down, for we are truly in the days like in the days of Noah. Repent while ye have time. Make it right with the Father while ye have time, before it is too late. Because you don't want to have to go through another trial and tribulation. For this trial and tribulation that is coming, that is written in Revelation 12, is dealing with this last wicked one. You don't want to have to face him when you don't have to. Make a choice. Come in while you have time. Do not wait before it's too late. For there is a hell and there is a heaven, and you have free will to choose which one you want to be in. Make your decision now before it is too late. All right, continue to preach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it's truly at hand. Make sure the people receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10. And follow the Lamb example, for he set the example to be baptized of the water and of the Spirit, the blood and the water, or should I say the water and the blood. Mysteries, mysteries, and mysteries. Just like he destroyed the world with what? Water, then he going to destroy the world with fire. And that is Yahusha HaMashiach. People just don't know. But anyway, follow the Lamb example. If you have no one to baptize you, he got you covered. The water is the second witness in the earth. His heavens is a witness. His earth is a witness. All you have to do what? Put your faith into works. Wherever there's water, you can be baptized. You can do it in your bathroom. You can do it in the lake, the river, the ocean, the swimming pool. It can be done. Father made this real simple for us. Same for the Holy Spirit baptism. If you want that, he will give it unto you according to your heart, your faith, and your works. Do y'all see that? He would give that unto you according to your heart, your faith, and your works. All you have to do what is ask in his son's name. Love you all. I hope y'all enjoyed this calendar lesson, because it's going to get deeper and it's going to revive you and refresh you. Shalom.